Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Um, so let me share my screen. Um, yeah, do you guys see my screen? So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Samambunam, Chapter 24, Worshipping Govardhan Hill, and text um 12 and 13. So I'll just do the Sanskrit um, translation and purport by myself. Shishuka uvacha vacho nishamya nandasya tatanyesham rajaukasham indraya manum janayan pitaram praha keshavaha. Translation and purport by disciples of His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami. Translation is let me Sukadev Goswami said, when Lord Keshava, Krishna, heard the statements of his father Nanda and other senior residents of Raja, he addressed his father as follows to arouse anger in Lord Indra. Purport: Srila Sridhar Swami explains that Lord Krishna's intention was not simply to insult a demigod, but rather to knock down the great mountain of false pride that had risen within the Lord's tiny servant, who was supposed to represent the Lord as Indra. By lifting Govardhan hill, Lord Krishna would thus initiate a blissful annual festival called Govardhan Puja, and he would further enjoy the pleasant pastime of dwelling for several days beneath the hill with all his loving devotees. And text 13, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Karmana Jayate Jantu Karmanyeva Praliyate Sukham Dukam Bhayam Kshemam Karmanyeva Vipadyate. Translation: Lord Krishna said, it is by the force of karma that a living entity takes birth, and it is by karma alone that he meets his destruction. His happiness, distress, fear, and sense of security all arise as the effects of karma. Purport: Lord Krishna minimized the importance of the demigods by speaking the philosophy known as Karma Vada or Karma Mimamsa, which basically is an atheism with a belief in reincarnation. According to this philosophy, there are subtle laws of nature that reward or punish us according to how we act. As you sow, so shall you reap. In a future life, one reaps the fruit of his present work, and this is the sum and substance of reality. Lord Krishna, being God himself, could hardly be a serious proponent of this mediocre philosophy. In the role of a young boy, he was simply teasing his pure devotees by preaching it. Srila Jiva Goswami points out that Lord Krishna was thinking, why are these eternal associates of mine, appearing as my father and other relatives and friends, so caught up in this worship of Indra? Thus, although the Lord's main purpose was to take away the false pride of Indra, he also wanted to remind his eternal devotees that they need not divert their attention to other so-called gods, since in fact his devotees were already living with the supreme absolute truth, the Almighty Lord Himself. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvai Namaha. So, welcome everybody. We are reading from uh, the 10th canto, chapter 24, text 12 and 13. So, this chapter and the next chapter are the two chapters dedicated to the Govardhan Leela pastime. And as we started reading in this chapter, that Nanda Baba and other residents in Vrindavan, they're all preparing for their annual Indra Puja, their annual sort of worship of Lord Indra. And little Krishna, as usual, sort of wanders along the scene just to create some mischief, and he starts asking these questions to Nanda Baba. And usually, when Krishna starts asking question, Nanda Baba knows it's not just one question. It's just one question turns into another, which turns into another. So when Krishna sort of approaches Nanda Baba is in anxiety, like, oh, okay, I'm really busy. He says, hey, Lala, I don't have time for this. Like, go play with your friends. But then Krishna somehow uses his logic to convince Nanda Baba that, you may think that I'm a little boy, but you are a learned person. And as a learned person, what a learned person does not discriminate between less intelligent and those who are intelligent. So you should not think of me as a little boy, but you should be merciful. And even if I may be a little boy, you should be merciful and impart knowledge because it is your duty as a father to educate. So he uses all these logic, and Nanda Baba like, okay, fine. And then he says, we're doing Indra Puja. And like, why are we doing Indra Puja? He says because we are like Vaishyas, and we depend on Lord Indra's mercy as he showers rain. So all these cowherd group, they belong to the Vaishya class. Vaishyas, as we know, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishi Goraksha Varnijam, Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam, that the different occupational traits that are there for Vaishyas are like farming, which is Krishi, farming, Goraksha, cow protection, and Manijam, trade, commerce, and so on. So Krishi Goraksha Vanijam, Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. So one of the occupation for Vaishyas is farming. And for farming, as we know, the farmers basically, when spring starts, they start their planning for the whole year. They plow the field, they sort of till the land, they fertilize it, they sow the seeds. And then right before in India, that there's 4 months of monsoon. The Chaturmas is predominantly monsoon. So they sow their field and they're ready for monsoon. They're just waiting. And at that point, sort of it rains. And for 4 months it rains, and all the land is sufficiently nourished by the rainfall. And after the rains end, the fields start producing their bountiful harvest. So so after the monsoons are done, the farmers basically then they start collecting the harvest, and then end of autumn is like the harvest. And when winter comes, that's not really suitable for like farming because it's like little colder, at least in northern parts of India and most parts of the world. So that point is when the farmers are sort of trading their produce, and then they prepare and so on. So at the end of the 4 months is when the farmers uh, are sort of thankful to Indra. So that's why you see end of fourth month of Chaturmas is Kartik. So during the month of Kartik was predominantly when primarily when they would worship Indra, and worship of Indra was then substituted by Govardhan Puja. That's why you see Govardhan Puja fest being celebrated in the month of Kartik, because Kartik happens at the end of Chaturmas. So like this, Nanda Baba is explaining how for like Vaishyas, farmers and cow protectors alike, rains play an important part of their livelihood, and that's why we should worship Indra, and so on. The conversation ensues between them, and Nanda Baba then further goes on to explain the three varga, how one should be grateful because by following religiosity, dharma, from dharma comes artha. When we worship, when we follow our dharmic duties properly, comes artha, which is like material prosperity. And material prosperity then allows you to engage in kama, which is sense gratification and desire, fulfilling your desires. So, like this, Nanda Baba is explaining, and they're having a conversation. But Krishna's idea is to completely disrupt this whole Indra Puja tradition. And the interesting thing is every action of Krishna has multiple purposes. He achieves multiple purposes by a single action. So by wanting to disrupt this tradition, Krishna first wants to destroy Indra's pride. That's the primary reason why he wants to do that. He wants to destroy Indra's pride. And then the next reason he wants to establish the worship of Govardhan. And the third reason why he's doing this is to sort of unite all the residents for 7 days and 7 nights together. So if you see in Vrindavan, there's different rasas, and all of those different rasas, they have a certain particular time of the day where they engage. They have association of Krishna. Each rasa is sort of each time of the day is favorable for a certain rasa. For example, at night, it's more favorable for Madhurya rasa. Like when all the residents of Vrindavan go to sleep, then Krishna sneaks out of his home, and all the gopis they sneak out and they sort of have a rendezvous in the forest in the moonlight, especially if it's a full moon night by the banks of a river. So it's like really conducive for their romantic Madhurya Rasa. So nighttime is like Madhurya Rasa, and then when it's morning, then it's like the Vatsalya Rasa. Mother Yashoda wakes up her Lala, and then she'll bathe Krishna, and then she'll dress Krishna, prepare breakfast, feed breakfast, and then prepare their lunch boxes. So that morning time is like Vatsalya Rasa. And then after that is like the Sakya Rasas, the cowherd boys take over when they sort of go to the forest with Krishna. And it's described in our Shastra how all of the residents are so eager to associate with Krishna, like especially the cowherd boys. They keep waking up in the middle of the night. They think that it's morning, like they wake up at 1 a.m. thinking it's morning. They can't sleep the whole night because they're thinking of the next day when they get to associate with Krishna. So, like this, each time of the day is conducive for certain rasa. But Krishna wanted to facilitate this Govardhan pastime where all of the rasas sort of come together. So, this is the only other rasa where only other pastime where all the rasas together are reciprocate. Krishna is reciprocating with his devotees in all of the rasas simultaneously. Because when Krishna lifts the Govardhan hill, there's like the older gopas and gopis and the cowherd boys and the gopis, the younger gopis, and they're Krishna simultaneously sort of reciprocating with all of them. And the other pastime we see where Krishna is reciprocating simultaneously to all the other to devotees in all the rasas is any guesses which other pastime where Krishna is reciprocating uh, simultaneously with all of the devotees in different rasas?
The Kaliya?
Yeah, that's one because yeah, but Krishna doesn't fully sort of reciprocate in the sense that yeah, that's a good answer. Thank you, Andrea. That's a great. Any other thoughts of which other rasa Krishna is sort of uh, at least the devotees are sort of all present and they see Krishna in according to their vision, according to their rasa. So it's when Krishna enters Mathura in the court of Kamsa, and it's described as Krishna's walking. All of the devotees are looking at Krishna. The older devotees are looking at Krishna as such a lovely young boy, and the cowherd boys are seeing Krishna as their dearmost friend, and the asuras are looking at Krishna as death personified. The gopis are looking at Krishna as Cupid personified, and all of the uh, devotees are sort of relishing Krishna simultaneously in different rasa. They're relishing Krishna. So, like this, one of the purpose of Krishna lifting the Govardhan hill was to facilitate sort of non-stop pastimes for all of the devotees so that they don't have to have a break. For 7 days, they're all relishing Krishna's association. And the other reason why Krishna performed this pastime was to sort of establish the worship of Govardhan. And like to give you a little backstory on Govardhan. So Govardhan so in the Vedic, as for the Vedic fold, we see all of these hills. They are like personalities. They're not just hills. The whole material creation is not simply like dead matter. Actually, it's all personalities who are governing these dead matter. All matter we see is an emanation. There's a personality behind it. When we're speaking, speech is an energy, but there is like a personality behind that energy. So like that, we see the moon, the Surya, Chandra, all these. There's personality behind that that's governing all of the functionings of the universe. So there is like Himalayas, Himavan. There's like a personality behind that. Sheshachal, it's a person. It's a manifestation of Shesha. So like these different hills. This the daughter of Himalaya was Parvati, who's a wife of Lord Shiva. So the king of hills is Dronachal, and the son of Drona hill is or Govardhan. So once Pulasya Muni wanted to take Govardhan with him to Kashi, which is Banaras, the place of Lord Shiva. So he wanted to take Govardhan, but then Govardhan had this condition that you can take me, but as soon as you put me down, I'm not gonna move from that spot because mountains are known as Achal, right? Like Himachal or Dronachal, Sheshachal. Chal means to move. Achal means that which is stationary. So mountains don't keep moving about. They're just stationed. So so Govardhan said, you know, once if you put me down, that's it. I'm not gonna move from that spot. And Pulase Muni said, okay, fine, I agree. So he's carrying and they're flying across. And as he sort of flying over Vraja, Govardhan really wants to sort of settle down because that's the place where this happens in Satya Yuga. So Govardhan Hill, anticipating pastimes of Krishna, wants to sort of be stationed there. So he starts becoming heavier as they're approaching Vraja. And then Pulasya Muni thinks, okay, let me just put him down for a second, forgetting the condition that he had in the first place. So he thought, okay, let me just take a break. He puts him down, and as soon as he puts him down, Govardhan is like, okay, that's it. You know, I'm not gonna move from this spot. And then Pulasya Muni realizes that, you know, oh, I've been tricked. This is a trick by Govardhan Hill, and he becomes really angry. And then he curses Govardhan Hill that because you tricked me, I curse you. That each day you'll shrink by the size of a sesame seed. So that's why in Satya Yuga, Govardhan was like really huge, and then each yuga it keeps shrinking and shrinking. And now, if you go to Vrindavan, you know you can circumambulate Govardhan. It's like I think about 22 kilometers, if I remember correctly. It takes about 6 to 7 hours to sort of circumambulate the whole. If you have a good walking speed, I did it in about 6 hours, but depending on your health condition, it might take longer to circumambulate Govardhan. So, so this way, Krishna wanted to establish the. There's other sort of stories also of Govardhan's appearance. This happened in Satya Yuga, and uh, in Treta Yuga, when the associates of Lord Ram and they were building the Ram Setu bridge to Lanka, they were taking different stones. And by the time Hanuman came to sort of use Govardhan in service of building the Setu bridge, the bridge was all completed. So he said, "Oh, sorry, you know, it's all done. You know, there's no service for you." So Govardhan was really disappointed that he couldn't engage in Lord Ram's service. So then Lord Brahma came and he assured him, "Don't worry, you know, in the next yuga, in Dwapar Yuga, you'll engage in Lord Krishna's service. You know, you'll personally engage in Krishna's association and service." So this way, in Dwapar Yuga, Krishna came and that became the hub of their pastimes. And the third reason why Krishna established this Govardhan, this he orchestrated this pastime was to sort of, as it said in the purport, I think of verse 12, that he wanted to break the false pride, the mountain of false pride of Indra. So Krishna wanted to break one mountain to establish another mountain. So what is one mountain? Indra's pride is compared to a mountain. It was so huge. It wasn't tiny. So did I say Krishna? Indra's pride was so huge that it was like a mountain. So it's compared to a mountain. So Krishna wanted to break one mountain to establish another mountain. So Krishna, being the super soul, could sense that Indra's pride was really getting out of control. So there's a nice story about what God does, like how Krishna sort of destroyed Indra's pride, smashed Indra's pride. There was once a king who was known to be really temperamental, and he would ask questions to his ministers and brahmanas, and if he wouldn't get satisfactory answer, he would get really irritated, and then sometimes he would punish them severely, or even sort of sentence them, give them a death sentence. So this king once had this question, that what is the permanent job of God? What does he continually do every moment? What is the permanent job of God? And all the ministers and advisors started giving answers like, God, he creates, But then the king said, no, he doesn't create every second. He creates once, and then his agents, then they further take care of the whole manifestation, shak- uh, uh, like his demigods and other representatives, they are in charge of the whole sort of carrying out the day-to-day activities. Then the other different ministers suggested, he does destruction, like, nah, that is done by Lord Shiva. So this way, all the ministers were running out of answers, and king was getting really increasingly impatient. And he turns to his favorite brahmana, and the brahmana, anticipating this, he runs away from the kingdom. Hears about this, and because he knows that if the king doesn't get satisfactory answer, that could be the end of his life. So he packs his bag and he just leaves. He tells his other associates, just tell the king that I'm traveling. And as he's running away from the kingdom, going to a nearby village, one of his disciple, he bumps into his disciple, and his disciple asks, or, dear Gurudev, where are you going? He says, oh, the king asks this question. The disciple says, what is the question? The king wants to know what is the permanent job of God. So the disciple says, oh, no problem, I'll handle this. The Brahmin says, okay, good, good, good luck, and he runs away. So the disciple of the Brahmin, then goes to the court with the king, and he says, the Brahmin has sent me to answer. Now the king becomes even more annoyed that this little boy, this Brahmin has sent this, nobody could answer. Now this little boy is going to attempt to answer my question. He says, okay, fine. But the Brahmin boy, the disciple of the Brahmin, says, but I have one condition. You must get down from your throne, come down the stairs, and I should take your spot, and then I can satisfactorily answer uh, your question. Now the king has become really, really impatient, and he's sort of fuming, and he's like, okay, fine. And then he gets down, walks down the steps, and then the boy sort of ascends and sits on the throne. And then the boy says, this is a permanent job of God. Those who are high, he brings them down. Those who are low, he elevates them. If you're puffed up, then Krishna smashes you. And if you're really humble, then he elevates you. So, like this, we see one of the reason why Krishna wanted to orchestrate this pastime was to destroy the pride. He destroys whatever thing we artificially depend on. Krishna destroys that. Yasyaham anugranami harishita dhanam shane tato dhanam tyajatyasa swajana dukha dukita. That Krishna says, Sachinanda Swami, His Holiness Sachinanda Swami says that Krishna deals with devotees in two ways. He has two ways of bestowing mercy, his sweet mercy and his bitter mercy. Sweet mercy is when all good things happen to us. You get initiated, and you become a temple president, all good things are happening, prestige. And the bitter mercy is opposite, where nothing's going your way, you lose your job, your family rejects you, and you might think, wait, how is this mercy? It is mercy because only times like this, like Kunti Maharani says, Janma Shwarya Shruta Shibir Edamadam Madapuman, Na eva abid na arhati eva abidatum vai tvam akinchana gochara. One who is intoxicated by wealth, high birth, knowledge, beauty, and so on can never feelingly call out to you, O Krishna. When one is completely rid of all these designations, that's when one can feelingly really call out to Krishna. So this way, Krishna, when he favors someone, he smashes them in a sweet way. Krishna's dealings, everything he does is really sweet. So he takes away the pride that the devotee, and if you see all the different forms of anartha nivriti, so you may have lust, you may have greed, whatever that is. those forms of anartha nivritti is when you're getting purified. That is not that, it doesn't sting you that bad. But when Krishna deals with pride, that really stings. When you sort of have a lot of ahankar, like high ego, and when Krishna is trying to purify you, it's really bitter at first. But then once you're through that, it's really nectar at the end. When you really reach that humble stage, like we see how Brahma Vimohan Leela, and even towards the end of this pastime, and Indra, Lord Brahma, and other people who are subject to Krishna's bitter mercy, when they're purified, it's so sweet at the end. They're like tears roll down your eyes, and you realize, how merciful Krishna is. So even in the whole pastime of Yaksha Prashna and Mahabharata, we won't go into that pastime. We don't have a lot of time, but there is a whole beautiful pastime of how this ghost Yaksha is asking Maharaj Yudhishthir all these questions, and one of the questions he asks Yudhishthir is, "What is that one thing which, abandoned by people, can make them really favorable, really well liked, really, what is that one thing which, abandoned, absence of which, a man becomes really well liked?" And Yudhishthira Maharaj, he's so wise, and he's like the Dharma personified, son of Dharmaraj. He says that pride is that thing which is when abandoned, a person becomes, excuse me, really well liked. Nobody likes a puffed up person, right? In our political situation, I'm not going to name, we have recently a political leader who's not particularly known for his humble disposition. And how do you feel when such a person speaks? Does anybody like such a person who's really proud? So Yudhishthira Maharaj says pride is, it's that thing, it's pride which which abandon makes a person really well liked. And then then next Yaksha asks, what is pride? So then Yudhishthira Maharaj says that pride, he gives an interesting definition of pride. Pride means uh, to think that one is the doer of actions. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Prakriti kriyamani gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimuratma kartaham iti manite. This kartaham mentality, kartaham, aham, karta, that I am the doer, that is the quality of ahankar or pride. So, so to destroy this, and then verse 13, going on to verse 13, I'll just take a few minutes to describe verse 13. And then Krishna, then to further annoy Indra, he propounds this karma mimamsa philosophy, which is like a less than perfect philosophy. Then he propounds karma mimamsa just to further annoy. So now, as you know, there's 6 schools of philosophy, right? So originally, when Krishna sort of initiated Lord Brahma into the Gopal Gayatri a mantra, and then from that flute song, Brahma then composed all of the Vedic literature and then delegated to Vyasadev, and then Vyasadev compiled, initially was one Veda, and then he sort of divided that into 4 Vedas, and then he saw that okay, humans are still not qualified in Kali Yuga to understand. Then the 4 Vedas were then further. Initially, they were like Shrutis, which was sort of heard, and from the Shrutis, the sages then they recollected, and then from that came Smritis, the Puranas, the Itihasas, and so on. So the Vedas themselves are divided into like Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Itihasas, and Samhitas. From that comes Smriti. I'm going a little fast because we are now coming towards the end, so please pardon me. But then from that comes Smriti, which is the Puranas. And still humans are not qualified, and then different sages, then they sort of further come up with your own analysis, and then come the 6 schools of Vedic thought. And the 6 schools are like, there's Nyaya, there's like a Vaisheshika. Nyaya was propounded, each school of thought was propounded by a particular rishi. Like Nyaya was propounded by like Gautam Rishi, and then there is Vaisheshika, which is like atomism, which is propounded by Kannada, and then there's Sankhya philosophy, which was by Lord Kapila Dev, and then there is like Yoga Vashishta by Patanjali Rishi, and then there is Karma Mimamsa, which is what Krishna is trying to sort of preach to Lord to Nanda Baba to annoy Indra. So Karma Mimamsa, or also known as Purva, there's two types of Mimamsas. There's Purva Mimamsa or Karma Mimamsa, and there's Uttara Mimamsa. So Karma Mimamsa is what was propounded by Jaimini Rishi. So Mimamsa means analysis. So Purva Mimamsa is like preliminary analysis, which is, and this theory states that it's ultimately just karma. One is responsible for one's actions, as it's mentioned in the purport, as you sow, so shall you reap. One doesn't need to worship any higher being. You just for keep doing good acts and you'll get the results. So all the five schools of thought, they were like flawed. So after Vyasadev saw that the previous five were not really perfect, or not that they're not perfect, but they're not fully complete. So after Purva Mimamsa, then Vyasadeva himself came up with Uttara Mimamsa or Vedanta, or it's also known as Brahma Mimamsa. Vedanta basically, as you see, Veda Anta. Anta is the end of all the Vedic teachings, the final conclusion of all the So Vyasadeva finally then concludes all of the Vedic literature by the Vedanta. But then he's still not satisfied, and that's when Narad Muni, his guru, comes and he says, "You haven't sufficiently glorified Krishna." And then he sort of writes a commentary of the Vedanta, which is Bhagavatam. So anyway, we see that Bhagavatam is like how from milk you can make buttermilk, and then buttermilk when it condenses becomes butter. Further, when it distills and condenses becomes ghee. So Bhagavatam is like the final cream of all the Vedic Shastras. But what is the flaw of this karma Mimamsa philosophy? It sounds perfect, right? Actually, it is true to some extent. If you perform your actions, then you do get your result. That's how the material world is designed to function. But what is the flaw in this karma mimamsa? Is there a flaw, firstly? And if there is, what is the flaw? Maybe we can, any thoughts of what that flaw could be?
Is it missing Krishna?
Yeah, what missing Krishna? Excellent. What other thoughts?
Haribol, I never thought of this before you started speaking about this. It's that there's no room for mercy. In our conception, like karma is only to direct us back to our original constitutional nature. The other thing is just cut and dry. And so there's no room in this conception for mercy. It's, so I never, thank you for bringing this up. I'm thinking, my God, I never thought of it that way, but that's there's no room for mercy here.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was actually one of the points that I wanted to share. Prabhupada mentions this in Ishopanishad. He mentions in text 18 that he says that in this mantra, text 8 of Ishopanishad, in this mantra as well as many other Vedic mantras, it is clearly stated that the Lord has been supplying goods to the living entities from time immemorial. A living being desires something, and the Lord supplies the object of that desire in proportion to one's quality. If a man wants to be a high court judge, he must acquire not only the necessary qualifications, yes, that is there, but also the consent of the authority who can award the title of the high court judge. The qualifications in themselves are insufficient for one to occupy the post. It must be awarded by some superior authority. Similarly, the Lord awards enjoyment to the living entities in proportion to their qualifications, but good qualifications in themselves are not sufficient to enable one to receive awards. The mercy, as Jamuna Jai Prabhu said, the mercy of the Lord is required. So brilliant. Thank you so much for that on point answer. So one is it leaves no room for mercy. And the other thing Krishna also mentions in Bhagavad Gita is, see, the problem in just depending on our karma is you're assuming that one knows how to act. In chapter 5, I think Krishna says the intricacies of karma are really hard to understand. One should know what action is, forbidden action is, and inaction or akarma. So it's not, we can't just simply assume one knows how to act. In fact, there's this principle of entropy, which states that our material universe is a system which by default is subject to degeneration. By default, there is the disorder and disharmony by default increases. And Krishna himself states this in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 7. He says, Icha dvesha samutina dvandva mohena bharata. That one is born into the dualities of Icha and Dvesha. So in this deluded condition, one hardly knows how to act. That's why one needs to know how to act. And then finally, Krishna says, to conclude, I'll just leave you guys with this one final thought, is, again, let me share my screen. Krishna says that why is one's own action not the only thing? Why that's a flawed thinking? He says that, O mighty arm, this is chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita. He says, O mighty arm Arjuna, according to Vedanta, there are 5 causes of for the accomplishment of all action. Learn of these from me. He says the place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. Ultimately, the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Kartaham iti manite, prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani. So pride is, what pride means is that the the mentality that I am the only doer, and Krishna is saying that one who thinks he's the only doer is not really intelligent. Okay, so with this, maybe we can have. I took a little extra because our morning invocation went on a little 2 minutes extra, so I took the liberty of going 2 minutes a little later with this presentation. So thank you so much. With this, maybe we can have some thoughts, any reflections, any comments, any questions, anything you want to further enhance. One thing is, I'm so sorry, I forgot to start this discussion seeking blessings from all the senior Vaishnavas. I'm so sorry. I see so many senior Vaishnavas. All of you guys are worshipable. My apologies. I wanted to seek all of your blessings before we start this discussion. So yes, any devotees want to add?
Hare Krishna, Godruma Prana Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. It was such an amazing class, both on the sweet pastime aspect as well as so many nice points, and especially the last point of mercy was so amazing. So I just had one question. Like when you quoted this section from the Bhagavad Gita about the super soul's role in any action to be performed, so does the equation change for devotees and non-devotees? Like, what is the qualification? Say, for example, if a non-devotee wants to go buy a pizza and eat, so what is the what do you call, like, criteria for super soul to sanction it or non-sanction it? How much super soul is like even bothered about that action?
So I think Krishna answers this in Bhagavad Gita. He's saying that, when you know that famous verse, Ye yata mam prapadyanti tam satyeva bhajamyaham. The last 2 lines are the really important lines. Ye yata mam prapadyanti tam satyeva bhajamyaham. Mama martvanu martante. Krishna says, see, actually, everybody's following my path. Only difference is to the percentage to which you are following. Some are following 10%, atheists are maybe following 0%, devotees, even in devotees, there's gradation 90, 95%, 99%. Krishna is saying, ultimately, everybody's following my path. Even atheism is sanctioned by Krishna. So Krishna is saying, depending on how much you are sort of following this path, to that extent, I will facilitate that. But even for the ACS, even that Krishna is allowing, because Krishna says in chapter 15, right? What is that verse? Matasmriti jnanam of apohanam cha. That from me, sarvasya cham hidi sanivishto. That from me come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness also. So, like the famous Hare Krishna saying that in ISKCON, not a blade of grass moves without the consent of the Lord. So, in the end, the Lord is the sanctioning authority for anything, even if you want to reject Krishna, because Krishna has free will. So how can Krishna not give us free will? So if someone wants to reject Krishna, even that Krishna reluctantly grants. So ultimately, there's Krishna's sanction in everything. And that's why I think in that 8th verse of Ishopanishad, Prabhupada brilliantly says that for every action, there is two components. One is our endeavor, and the other is the authority of Krishna, like the 2 fingers analogy of the Damodar pastime. So the problem in this pastime was the 2 fingers was, one was the endeavor of the Gopas to worship, and the other was mistakenly assuming the Indra's bestowal of mercy. So what Krishna did was he sort of took away the first one, the top one, and he smashed the Indra's thing, and then established his mercy on top. So they were depending on their endeavor and Indra's mercy. He smashed Indra's mercy and established his mercy. I'm sorry, I went on a tangent, Prabhu. I don't know if that was on point. We have
Thank you, Prabhu.
many. See,
Yeah,
do you have
thank you.
any corrections, Prabhu? Garshan, Prabhu,
No,
do you have
no, no,
any?
no. It was, yeah, no, I think you answered my question. Thank you.
Any other thoughts from the Vaishnavas? Yes, our dear Adi Purusha Prabhu,
Hare
exalted
Krishna.
Adi Purusha Prabhu.
Well, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. The idea of being uplifted by mercy, mercy comes from someone. And of course, we know the lotus feet of the spiritual master is the only way to obtain pure devotional service. And just yesterday, somebody I've been in conversation with a long time was beginning to ask, well, I haven't found my guru. Do you have to have a guru? And somebody asked that just a few days ago to Champa Klatmakshi. And she said, no, you can always engage in devotional service. It's always, Krishna is always accessible. And then, but in this conversation yesterday, I said to this person, well, what does scripture say? Probably just two quick stories. Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Please go on.
The Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, Prabhupada's spiritual master, he's a great, great soul. He was, when he was, if as an infant, the Lord Jagannath's cart stopped in front of the house, the garland fell on him. He had an umbilical cord like a Brahmin thread. He knew all of Bhagavad Gita verses by 7 years old. His father was great grandfather, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And then Bhakti Vinod Thakur said, you must have guru. So I was responding to this person. I said, well, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Naishtika Brahmachari, photographic memory. You have to have guru. Whoa, you are my father. I know script. No. He went to Gorkishore Das Babaji, and the Babaji said, no. And his father told him, you don't have guru because you don't want guru. So he met the Babaji again on the bridge, and he jumped up on the railing of the bridge. And Babaji said, what are you doing? He said, if you don't accept me as a disciple, I'm going to jump off and drown myself in the river. He said, okay, now I will accept you. So the idea of having spiritual master in order to get the mercy, and in order to come to the platform, not just of devotional service, but pure devotional service, you know, that there's somebody there who is instructing us. And it says, when the disciple is ready, the guru appears in our life. And when we have that burning desire, and we know scripture tells us, guru, it's important to have guru, it's essential to have guru. To get pure devotional service, we must have that relationship. And then Krishna will send, for certainly.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for that.
But I've heard, Bhagavad Gita Prabhupada. The service and pure devotional service.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other comments,
I have
thoughts?
conscious blowing.
Can you mute yourself, Adi Purusha Prabhu?
Why? Why would you want to mute Govinda Purusham?
Okay. I don't know if you wanted to take some.
We'll take them after
Okay.
darshan.
Sure.
Okay, cameras on if you can, please. Yeah. Nice seeing everybody. Okay.
I think Prabhu's muted. Can you unmute him, Prabhu?
I'm trying. I guess this is it.
Oh no.
No sound. Okay.
Why don't you sing,
We
Anandi Bihari Prabhu?
we can still see the Lord, and the Lord can see us.
And you can sing.
We can sing. Who knows the prayers by heart? I don't. Andrea, you have them at hand? No. Ganesha, does Whiskey Dust know the prayer by heart? Whiskey, you want to chant?
Someone should look it up real quick and read the English. Read the English instead of singing along. Read the English about Krishna.
Who is that instruction for, Bhima Prabhu? Would you like to call a devotee out?
Anybody who has
Anybody except Bhima.
access,
Okay, anybody except Bhima. Right?
except me. I'm in the middle of the field cutting down a tree. The tree's about to fall on me. I want to hear the Govindam prayers when I get crushed.
They're coming. Andrea is playing them on the phone, I guess, right, Andrea?
But it's a mantra box, so it only repeats that first thing. It doesn't do the whole thing. So.
Let's put the first line on repeat. That's fine. Scarlett is sad. What's that sad emoji? Okay, now she's smiling. Okay, that's good. Okay, I mean, I guess there's no sound. Let's, Radha Mulidhar, it's so wonderful to see you.
Yeah, I'm muted himself.
Okay, I'm just saying that it's so wonderful to see the deities, Shishu Radha Mulidhar, Shukura Chandra. Let's open the afterglow. If there's a question or a comment, now is the time.
Andrea?
So I had a question that I put in the chat just as a clarification and then a comment. You kept saying Nanda Baba, and then you also the same sentence said Lala, and I don't know those terms, and I was wondering if you could explain them.
Yeah, Baba is like father. So Nanda Baba, Nanda Maharaj is often referred to as Nanda Baba. Like we say Mother Yashoda, Yashoda Mai. So Nanda Baba is just like father. So Krishna would call his father like Baba. And Lala is like a term of endearment, like how you call kids. So they would call Krishna as Lala. You know, you call your children by some pet name, you know. Ananda Bihari Prabhu, would you call Gorangi by some name, some by pet name?
Yeah.
So is it a pet name specific to Krishna, or is it just
Yes,
one?
yes.
Oh, okay. And does it have any kind of significance?
I should be honest, I don't know if it means anything or there's any significance behind it, but it's they just call him Lala. Or in the purport, I think one of the purports it said that Nanda Baba also referred to Krishna as Tata, which means son in a loving way.
Oh,
So there's
okay.
different ways they would address Krishna, like Lala, you know. Just
I
like we
haven't
might
heard
say,
that endearment. So thank you so much for explaining it. It's very personal and sweet. And then
yeah.
My comment was just a follow-up on what Adipurusha Prabhu shared about searching for Guru, and that the Guru will show up when the disciple is ready. And I feel like that's so important to reinforce that it's okay to, if like the Guru isn't showing up, to not force it, you know, and to just keep praying intensely to Krishna and trying to do your best. And because sometimes when we aren't ready and we try to force it, like when people have this idea of like, oh, in ISKCON, like everybody gets initiated, you know, within 2 or 3 years or like whatever. And then people are trying to force like someone to be like their guru, and then it just doesn't work. So I think that that's really important to kind of keep in mind that everybody goes at different steps. Like there's people who have been trying to follow Krishna consciousness for 20, 30 years and they haven't gotten initiated, and that doesn't make them, you know, any less a devotee to Krishna than somebody else who maybe got initiated 2 or 3 years into it. So I just think it's important to kind of give people that space to kind of breathe and not feel like intimidated by some kind of timeline, when I think I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Krishna, he only looks at the things that we're doing right and he doesn't look at what we're doing wrong, and that anything that we do in terms
Yamaraj is looking at those things.
and then in our spiritual practice that, you know, he puts in the deposits into our spiritual bank, and that passes on from, you know, God forbid we have to do another life, but that passes on from life to life. That spiritual bank balance doesn't get depleted. So I know that for me, it makes me feel very hopeful to kind of think of it that way, and that there's some space to breathe with that, especially for new people. I think it also helps too. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. That was so nice. Of course, this is a really complex and nuanced topic. It's important not to swing to either extremes. One is we have this institutional pressure that we must find a guru and you're trying to force it. But the other extreme is I've seen some people, they're like, oh, it has to happen naturally. It has to happen organically. And you're just waiting for like decades thinking, and the interesting thing is this topic came up in our Bhakti Riksha at my home program. And there was a long discussion. There was a heated discussion on both the sides. And then afterward, I compile like a long list of Shastric injunctions, which talks about the importance of a guru. Some of them can be sound a little heavy, but in short, devotional service, of course, Krishna accepts whatever we do. But the real thing is once we're doing it under the guidance and shelter of a guru. It's like going to a gym and you're just lifting weights without having anything. You're just doing this. So when you put on weights and you start lifting, that's devotional. And in one of the purports in CC, I can give you all these references if you're interested. But Prabhupada says, anyway, it's a little heavy reference. Where Prabhupada says that without shelter of a guru, pretty much everything we do is, should I say it, quote unquote, useless. Anyway, these verses are not to be taken out of context. So that's not my idea, to just sort of single out certain sections of the Shastra. But what I'm saying is this is a really complex and nuanced topic, Guru Tattva. But in short, one thing is for sure, like you said, Andre Prabhu, that Guru is not something like, for example, you go to Walmart or you go to Home Depot, you take a shopping cart, you toss in few gurus, you look at different guru products, and then during checkout, you sort of toss others and you say, can I check out this guru, please? And how much? Like, just $500. Okay. Like, do you accept Amex? So gurus, the shopping for guru is not like you're shopping at Home Depot or, guru has to be bestowed. When Krishna sees that you're really eager to attain his mercy, when you're really eager, dying to attain the lotus feet of Krishna, then Krishna then bestows guru. So from our side, one has to express eagerness. That's what we can do. We can show Krishna that we're really sincere. I really want to attain you. And I know this for a fact that I cannot do this without the mercy of a guru. And then when Krishna sees that, then he bestows a guru. He says, okay, this personality will show you the direction, show you the way. So anyway, it's a really Guru Tattva. There's in ISKCON, there have been people who've given seminars on Guru Tattva. It's a really huge, complex topic, but you really nicely summarized, Andre Prabhu. So the important thing is not to swing to either extremes, not to be really complacent in the name of, oh, it has to happen, and then you're just being lazy, or you're trying to be really forceful in how to approach it. Yes, William Prabhu, you had your hand up. I don't know if you don't.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I'm a little confused. This is a very deep subject for me, and I apologize in advance if I'm asking a stupid question, but I heard that you can find Guru anywhere, and Krishna can appear as Guru anywhere. It doesn't have to be a devotee. I don't know how true this is. I've just heard it. But if Krishna wants to appear to anyone, he can appear to anyone as Guru anywhere. So I don't know if that's a question or a statement. I think it's a question.
Yeah, yes and no. Like we see the story of Avanti Brahman in Srimad Bhagavatam, where he had these 24 gurus. He saw this python as his guru. He saw different elements of nature as his guru. So yes, one can learn from different sources. There's different types of gurus. There's Shiksha gurus, there's Diksha gurus. So yes, Shiksha gurus, you can take Shiksha from anyone or anything. Like how Bilwa Mangal Thakur, for him, his prostitute was his guru. So Shiksha you can take from different sources, but Diksha there has to be a proper bona fide process. Like it's a Tasmat Guru Prapadeta Sheyasam Jigyasurutamam Shabde Parishanitatam Brahmani Upashramashrayam. That one should approach a guru, and the symptoms of a guru is established. He's established in Brahman Upashramashrayam. One has to follow, a guru has to be following in the, not only do they have to be in the sampradaya, A, B is they have to be following that. Like for example, if you want to go to a doctor, what are the two things you see? What are their background, right? Like educational background. If in their resume they say, I learned surgery from someone sitting under a tree, would you go to such a surgeon? Someone who learned from, I learned surgery from a carpenter or something like that. So you would see that if they've gone to a proper med school. So that is one thing. The other thing is you see if they're still practicing. If you're going to if you want to have a cardio surgery, but then the doctor, he has graduated from a top cardiosurgery med school, but then he switched to being a dentist. For the past 10 years, he's been practicing as a dentist. Would you go for a cardiosurgery from such a person? Yes, he has a background in cardio. So he has to be actively practicing, right? So just like we go to a doctor, a guru also, he have to come from a bona fide sampradaya, and they have to be following the standards established in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. So accordingly, when these two factors come, then we accept a Diksha Guru. But as far as Shiksha Guru goes, yes, you can learn from Shiksha Gurus from various sources. Any other thoughts on that point or
Hare
anything
Krishna.
that we discussed?
Thank you,
Yes, William Prabhu, anything more you want to add?
Just thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for that.
Somebody made a real point about how there's nothing forced. And a guru is not somebody who's coming to control you, coerce you, limit you, hurt you, exploit you. It's somebody who's caring for you. And I've heard it said very clearly and simply to someone with many, many doubts, do you want someone in your life who's worthy of your complete trust and obedience? Just based on desire. Doesn't cost anything to desire. You could be anyone, anywhere. But if you could say, you know what? I really want the truth. I really want to please the Lord. I really want someone in my life who's worthy of my complete trust and obedience. And Krishna will send that. And of course, if we're doing our humble best at any point, Krishna's pleased. And that's the criteria. But there are those two philosophies. You don't really need a guru. And the philosophy that you need a guru. And Krishna says, Tadvidi Pranitpatina. Approach a genuine spiritual master and inquire submissively. How can I serve you? Please, I know when sometimes we're sick and we just try to treat ourselves, but then one point, you know what, I have to go to the hospital. I need somebody who knows more than me because I'm doing good things myself, diet, rest, exercise, but I need something beyond my experience. My experience is limited. I know there's better, more expert help available. Who in their right mind wouldn't say, you know what, I really do want somebody, or not, but we get to this world because we don't want to surrender, and we get out of this world by saying, you know what, Lord, I really want to please you. I want to this. I don't know everything, so help me, and Krishna will help. Krishna is so wonderful. That's the point. We should glorify Krishna, that Krishna is so wonderful. No matter who we are, no matter where we are, no matter what level we're at, we can say, Lord, and in the heart, even if it's not a formal initiation with a fire sacrifice, we start to approach. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes, first you associate with devotees, you have some confidence that there's something valuable here, you do some service, take up some practice, but then at one point, among all the devotees, one voice stands out among the people that you have around you. And you begin to see, when I have a doubt, I find myself drawn to this person. And when this person speaks, okay, this is the one I'm aspiring for. This is the one I want to assist. This is the one who I believe Krishna is sending me. There's no force involved. There's no judgment involved. It's just like Krishna's kindness. Who in their right mind wouldn't accept the blessing and the shelter and the care of a loving wise person. Chanakya Slok says, a wise person will accept good advice even from a madman, but a fool won't accept good advice from anyone. Krishna can speak to us through a prostitute, through a child, through a book, through a dream. Krishna will send, he'll send us assistance. How wonderful is Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. And Prabhu, my apologies to you when I asked to mute. I forgot the protocol that we first check out the darshan, and then I thought after the classes, the discussion. So my apologies.
You thought you could talk over Radha Muladhar.
No, I thought this is the time for discussion.
With you, Prabhu. I'm messing with you. I'm sorry.
George Sharan cut that off. I didn't. He could see that the devotees were singing for Krishna and all the talking was going on. So he ran over and did something to the cell phone.
But still, my apologies, Prabhu, if I committed any offense to you.
No, we love to hear a wonderful class, just wonderful and important subject matter. And we're just telling what we heard from Guru, what Krishna says, that's all. And of course, other people may have feelings or opinions or, contrary evidence. But why not just hear Krishna says this? Approach Guru. Krishna will send you. It's available if you want it. At least that's what I heard.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Godruma Prana, Prabhu. Wonderful class, wonderful discussion. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness is a gradual process. The principle of having a guru may apply differently for different people. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, don't eat too much, don't eat too little. So don't take too long to accept a guru. Don't take too little, don't force. And don't take too long. So like Godruma Prana Prabhu wonderfully described, don't go into the extremes. So we can take one more. Is it an appreciation or a question, Bruce?
Just a quick point before Bruce, we hand out. Andrea Prabhu made a nice comment, correction rather. She said he or she when referring to Diksha Gurus. So yes, my apologies if I was referring to Diksha Gurus only as a he. There was no underlying implication. Thank you for that correction. Yes, Bruce, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Likewise, it's just an appreciation. This subject matter is so, you said it's so nuanced and so vast. And I'm in this process, and it's just nice to hear the three of you and the three perspectives, actually four, excuse me, is wisdom. And it's almost at this stage, it's so timely for me because the more I can hear on this subject, it just helps clarify because, this word useless, as you know, we were involved in that conversation. It was very difficult words to hear. And it's just nice that I can, the expansion of just the understanding grows each and every time that I hear a different perspective and different wisdom and knowledge from devotees. So I just pure appreciation. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. And like Andrea Prabhu was saying, sometimes there can be this institutional pressure or this timeline one has to artificially follow and then we're forcing it. So so these extremes can be a little unnatural. I don't know if
All right.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Amrita Kishori, we like your profile picture. Krishna lifting the Govardhan. It's coming up. This pastime is coming up. Looking forward to it. Okay. All right. Thank you, dear devotees. Thank you, William Prabhu, for the wonderful, intelligent question. Andrea, for always damage controlling us. Thank you. Venetia and Whiskey does. Bruce Prabhu, you're so sincere. Bruce Prabhu. Adi Purusha Prabhu, Scarlett is so happy, praying. Amish Prabhu, Suzanne, Angel, Madan Gopal Prabhu, Hare Krishna Madan Gopal, Isabel, Spirit Soul, Domi. Nice seeing everybody. Have a wonderful day. Give it to Krishna. Seek the Guru, seek the blessings, and Krishna will grant that desire. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.